So, in this video, I'm going to be wiping off makeup that I slept in and applying, I guess, like basic ass makeup. And when I say basic makeup, I don't mean to further perpetuate a dichotomy between natural quote-unquote makeup and heavy quote-unquote makeup, because I feel like that's also like a form of like, you know, femphobia and just like shaming folks for like what the fuck they want to do, you know, like with their body. And I also wanted to talk about like a post that I seen not too long ago, and like I've talked about, you know, my eyebrows being something that like causes me to be self-conscious about the way I look with no makeup or like no actual visual enhancements. And like honestly, you know, I was going through Facebook not too long ago, and someone that I became friends with through another friend, their name is Kim, they posted about how like they really have not been feeling well, and like they don't feel up to it to like do their femme routine, quote unquote, and like posted a picture of them with like one eyebrow, you know, natural, and then the other eyebrow was obviously like very sparse and missing. And you know, when I seen that, and also when Gervais, I also follow someone named Gervais, and they're fucking amazing. Like they're constantly like updating and just, you know, just writing the things that, you know, people need to hear, but also that need to be seen by someone in a body that I can not only relate to, but in a body that is like so very similar to mine. It's a visual meal, you know what I mean? Like to really be able to see someone who you can relate to in a body way, especially when like we look at bodies and how they're illustrated on YouTube alone, but like just visually what you're able to see in terms of like body types, and also like how they're coded, you know? I feel like whenever I see someone who looks like myself, like we're in very few areas, and very typically it's either to laugh at us or to scrutinize us for our health or to scrutinize our ability to self-express, whatever that may be. But when I seen these two people that I really like look up to, and not just for like makeup stuff, and not just because they're attractive people when they do complete their femme routine, but because of what they actually say, because of the substance that they hold. And I try to every once in a while, like, you know, either show myself getting ready in terms of like the therapy that is my femme routine, or I try to come with very little to no modifications in terms of like hair or makeup, because I do want it to be known that like there is work. There is work. I was reading about this as well, talking about how like there was someone who was a woman who was scared to put on her face, or rather was scared to reapply makeup because she didn't want to show the work, quote unquote. And I think, you know, I think of times, you know, either recently or far back where, you know, I would be getting ready and like just the level of like costume it felt to me is something that helped me realize like, you know, my identity in terms of like gender and presentation. And I think that like, you know, there are lots of people out there who can like listen to what I'm saying right now and say, you know, like, I feel you. Like sometimes like not only are you not feeling putting yourself together, quote unquote, in terms of like beauty standards and like makeup and, you know, beauty culture, and you will notice like the way people treat you or the things that people say to you, and it just can be to a point where like you don't want to ever forego that, be it therapy to you, be known to you or not, you just forego that shit. And I remember like growing up, I was like into makeup a little bit in terms of like I would steal it from my mom, I would go through it and I would play with it, and like my mom was lighter than me, so like like you could clearly tell that I was wearing makeup. There was nothing quote unquote natural about it. And I still liked it because I remember like growing up, I was very like self-conscious about this scar. It came from when I had chickenpox when I was really young. And it was like one of the chickenpox that I guess itched the motherfucking most because I was picking this bitch. And you know, and it just never left my face. And I remember looking at pictures of me without it and with it, and like being really upset about that at some point, and like wanting to use makeup to cover it. And looking back, like when I did it, I remember like I would be using my mom's like face stuff, and as I told you, my mom is like lighter than me. My mom would be considered white passing. So like you would very clearly see like this, like, and like sometimes I would put enough makeup on to where I would hide it, but like my face would essentially be like whited the fuck out. And I would try to use my mom's powder, and again, my mom is lighter than me, so my face every time I did makeup would look very different from my regular face. And in some ways it fascinated me, in some ways it was very interesting to me, the level of costume involved, but also this quote-unquote idea of like adultism, this idea that like, you know, there's me the kid, and then there's me made up, and therefore I'm a woman, and like equating womanism to makeup and like this state of play I was in, as if like womanhood was just there for me to like put on, you feel me? So, and I remember getting into like wild fights with my mom about putting on makeup. She was just very like against me wearing makeup because I think like she made it very clear to me that I was like not old enough for it. So I remember like my teen years being like very much like anti-makeup and not really being interested in wanting to wear makeup. And not even just because I was no longer living with my mother, because there was a brief period where I wasn't living with my mother, but it was more so like the places in which I was living, the makeup available to me not only did not match my skin tone, but it also just didn't fit my personality, quote unquote, because I was under this like very like sexist, misogynistic, femphobic ass idea that like to be quote unquote cute, to be quote unquote pretty was like not for me, and like I was like a certain type of person, and I therefore had a certain type of look because of my activities and or believed persona. And I really, you know, had this idea that like I would never be pretty, therefore I should just assimilate to a style that was like intrinsically linked to not pretty, like to basic, I shouldn't say basic, but to plain, simple. And like I would just like wear like basic ass clothes, and I would also like not engage in any makeup, and like my hair was like either straightened or it was like an afro or it was like put up, but it was never anything like super femme. It was always like, in my opinion, something very much more masculine of center. And it was comfortable. It was very comfortable. And I felt like at that point, you know, I'm able to like realize that I saw high femme, super femme, femme in general, as being visible, as being a way of visibility. And like my choice was to opt out of that by not being as femme, but also finding femme strength in that, but in a very dichotomic. I'm trying to think of the tense of this word, but in this almost way of a dichotomy, did I find myself like attractive for not being femme, for not being quote unquote girly. And I definitely found like peace and positivity in that. However, at the same time, I realized that like when I did engage with men, or I did engage with people who assume themselves to be, or rather people who I assume to be menfolk, would just not at all, or rather cis dudes, I should just say cis dudes. Cis dudes like would just like receive me in a way that was like almost like brotherly. But also I noticed the older I got and the more that I was like no longer really accepted by like dudes in a group without them commenting on my being femme, being a quote unquote female person, or being a cis assumed person. You know, I really couldn't be in spaces like that for much longer, because I feel like I was only able to really bask in my masculine of centeredness like as a younger person. I feel like the more aware I became, and also the more I felt pressures as a fat femme person to not only be quote unquote fashionable, but to be desirable, it started to become a situation where, you know, I would do anything to avoid being that dude. Like I wouldn't want to be like that, like guy's girl type situation where like I'm just one of the guys, because I no longer felt like that was what I wanted, because I was getting attention from men in ways that felt like I was like a woman. And then again, equating equating womanhood and womanity in terms of like cis dude, the cis male gaze, and whether or not I fall in it is whether or not I am a woman. And I often found myself not falling in the cis male gaze simply because of racism, because of sizeism, and also because of, you know, just lookism. You know, like being a fat person, that counts as a strike against you in our society. And, you know, I could be as cute as I want to be, but at the end of the day, those ingrained and internalized fat phobic, anti-black fat womanism, like extremely anti-sexualizing as well. So it's like combating all of those things in a scene, in a college setting, in a college town setting, very jarring, and also very much like led to situations where I found myself seeking out people who were exactly looking for who I am, and not exactly looking for any old person, and like looking in spaces for partners and or companions to like either like feed me in ways that made me feel always like a woman, always like I was visible in that femme way, instead of, you know, becoming my friend and then othering me or desexualizing me to a point where, you know, it's obvious that like what they're getting from me is like this like very like almost like domestic ass, because I want to be. I enjoy like treating people well and taking care of them, and I love like, you know, treating my friends luxuriously. Like it makes me feel good to like be able to like give someone something that I have, if I really do have it, like, and also working on that. But like it does make me feel good to give a gift to a friend or to treat a friend to something very like relaxing or healing. Like it really does like make me feel good to be able to nurture. So I feel like in a lot of ways, a lot of the partners I've had were more so interested in being nurtured versus nurturing. And, you know, like, moving forward, like, trying to find people who, again, are interested in me, specifically for me, and not at all trying to attribute me to some idea of a black girl that they're interested in. You know, you'll find these men saying things like, oh, like, I love black women, or I only date black women, or I've never dated a black woman before, as the prelude to conversations about perhaps fucking, perhaps hanging out, perhaps being around them physically. And it's just very scary to think, you know, what's out there in terms of what a black woman is, and then what people expect when you are willing to hang out with them, willing to share your time and your space. Like, it's just very interesting, you know, to hear someone say, oh, well, I love black women, as if we are one idea, one thing, or several things that may be perpetuated by media but are not at all congruent with my experience or your experience, or they are congruent, however not in the exaggerated ways that they are being performed in media. So like, you know, you go into these blind date situations, or you go into these meetings or these friendships or these casual encounters with someone who has this predisposed idea of who you might be. And, you know, you never being able to fully define that, because it seems as if you're pulling out of your ass all of these things about you that do not make you what they are making you out to be. And it becomes very much one-sided, and it becomes, again, like you are falling into another trope that they may not be explaining, which is the angry black woman, or the fiery black woman, the very passionate, strident black woman. And then it's kind of like it shuts you down from actually having any kind of dialogue with this person, because not only are you frustrated, this person has now seen the many different tropes played out by you in just a misunderstanding that is perpetuated by our system. And it's things like that that happen every day that not only silence people of color, but black women as a whole. And like moving forward, you know, trying to undo this shit, trying to undo this idea of respectability in terms of black women and black female bodied peoples, trying to move forward, you know, not only as a black woman, having this identity, but also as a queer black person, you know, trying to balance with all of this knowledge, with all of this understanding of who you are to popular culture. Therefore, it is mirrored back to you by these instances with people that you seemingly have never met, but have known about you, or know about you, or purport to know about you. And I'm only getting ready because my neighbor invited me over for breakfast. And it was a blessing, because like this morning, all we got is toast in the house. I'm telling you, like, it's about to be rough for a couple of days, but we're going to be good. But it's one of those things where it's like, I am manifesting so fucking hard. Like, I am on so many points right now. And I am just like, I'm at a point where like, I don't want to say I'm good under pressure, but the fucking shit that's been dropped on me, bitch, I'm swimming, okay? Like, I'm swimming in this shit. And I don't mean to perpetuate some idea of like some black, strong ass woman, independent ass, rugged individualist ass bullshit, because that's not true. I have people that care about me and that are looking out for me. And I appreciate having this audience. As I said countless times, this platform is therapeutic for me. It's like I get to talk, and it don't really matter who listens, but knowing that people listen is part of the therapy. So I want to leave you with this. I want you to know that you are a beautiful, bright ass person, and that you deserve to be visible, and that you deserve for people to see you, and that you exist. You exist. All the things and all the people that walk past you that seemingly pay you no mind, they felt your energy. Okay? Somebody calling you. Bye.